whenever you're putting strings on a guitar or a bass, like it starts very loose, and as you get closer to fine-tuning it, like the increments in which you twist it become smaller, right? So that's kind of how I see it. At the beginning you were just like jamming the strings in there and like twisting up until it gets tight, and then now you just need to actually find the right notes, and you have like a bunch of strings, so you have to find the notes for each one, and maybe like the strings that you have are the talenting. I don't know like where this analogy will go, but that's the overall idea. Like, no, you don't give up, but also you don't need to be hard-headed and go against like when reality hits your face. Like, okay, maybe you really like this final look, but you are clearly more inclined to do this process that gives the other final look of these pieces. So you choose between, okay, I want to like struggle to get the final look that I think it's nice, or do I want to go with what comes more naturally and like define my style a little bit more?
Please welcome concept artist Andre Pelaes David to this episode of the Learn Squared podcast, where he drops by to share the origins of his love for vehicles and passion for design. So let's jump in and discover how solid design and artistry can be achieved, how to use the inspirations around you, bodybuilding, and much more. Let's go. Sweet. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Learn Squared podcast. I'd like to welcome on very awesome artist and guest today, Andre Pelaes David. Sorry if I got that wrong, but welcome.
Hey guys, how are you? You're completely fine, man. Thank you.
Welcome to the podcast. Looking forward to just having a chat. But before we get into all of that good stuff, if you don't mind, just letting everybody know who you are and what you do.
Okay, so I'm Andre. I'm a Brazilian concept artist. I've been working professionally on the industry for about 8 or 9 years at this point.
Uh-huh.
I am mostly self-taught. I started pretty late in my journey, I would say, especially compared to the young kids that are starting at the age of like 15 now. I feel so old. I started designing when I was 21.
Wow.
That's when I actually discovered that concept art existed, and ever since it's been like my one and only goal to work in the industry, and I've been very blessed. So
Sick.
Yeah.
Awesome. What were you doing pre-21, pre-concept art journey? What was your journey? What was your life like then?
So I like to see the like pre-age 21 phase as the discovery kind of phase, because even as a young kid, I always wanted to kind of find out what I wanted to do with my life. So the journey of finding my profession was like my only focus up to that point. I knew that I wanted to create something. I knew that I wanted to invent things and to like come up with. I didn't know the term at the time, but like I wanted to design stuff.
Yeah.
And if you look at the like world of careers, there's a ton of careers that can allow you to do that. So at first I was very grounded, I'd say. I wanted to go for engineering or that sort of thing, like even civil engineering, construction, that sort of thing. Because I feel like as a kid, and I had a couple of uncles that were engineers. You were like, oh, they're like making this building and that's so awesome. Like,
sick.
And as a little boy, right, you like trucks and construction, everything looks awesome. So for a while, that's what I wanted to do. And then as soon as I started learning physics and chemistry at school, I was like, oh, in order to like make up new stuff, I need to actually understand how things interact and like how chemical elements behave. So that's my second kind of wish, like I started, I'll be a physicist or a chemist or something. And after that, I kind of basically locked myself in my room and started playing games. So that's the adolescence phase. And I was a very shy kid. So I ended up like getting addicted to a bunch of games. I was like, okay, this is where I want to work on. Yeah. And programming is kind of like the first option whenever you think about games. But, and I even went to a computer science course in college. Like that was my first college. I ended up dropping out. Looking back now, I think I mostly dropped out because I was a bit lazy. I don't think it was... The way that I like to see it is I didn't know what it was like to work hard. So imagine that you go through like the whole school without having to study a lot, and then all of a sudden you are faced with actual challenges. So
Yeah.
you need to pick up the book and read and study on your off time and that sort of thing. And I was not used to that, so it felt very weird. And because things didn't come naturally, I just felt like, okay, this is not for me. Otherwise, it would come naturally, which is a stupid idea. But I was young and I was stupid, so that's what happened. And then I dropped out. I ended up going to a second university course on the marketing and advertising course. And during that time, I met a teacher that was actually very much into comic books. He introduced me to a couple of artists, and I started like drawing again, like rekindle that fire, and I started studying a little bit more on my own time. And that's when I discovered concept art. Like I was doing that college course, and from that moment on, I was like, okay, I will finish my degree, but I know that I will not work in advertising. So
Yeah. Interesting.
Kind of how it goes. Yeah.
I had a similar journey where, like, prior to just completing the degree that I was on, I had already knew that I need to the gears I want to shift towards, and obviously similar to yourself, like it was concept art as well. I like how you described like pre concept art journey, but you kind of knew that you wanted to do design or what it was like. But did you kind of know exactly, or was it still like this mysterious thing, but you kind of had this pull towards this, like obscure thing?
I mean, I had a very clear vision, like when I thought in my head of what was the dream job. So when I was, I don't know if it was 5 or 6 years old, it was a very like defining period of my life because, first of all, at 6 years old, Phantom Menace released. So it was like so impactful. I guess my childhood had some like troubles, psychological and like health related issues.
Right.
And I feel, looking at it back now, I feel like I wanted to escape from real life, and the idea of this universe where you can like travel between planets and fly spaceships and freaking pod racing, I feel like that spoke to me quite a bit. And we were Anakin age at that time. I have a twin brother as well. And like having that moment where, okay, these movies, they take you somewhere else. I feel like that was extremely important. And then also, I don't know if you know what Max Steel is. It was like a toy that had a cartoon as well, an animation.
Maybe, I'm not too familiar.
Imagine a teenage version of 007. Like that's kind of how it is.
Got it.
And in those kind of movies and TV shows, the guy always goes to a scientist, and the guy gives him like a prop or a gadget or something that he uses like during the next mission or something. And I remember very distinctly watching an episode where they show a wireframe version of that prop, like rotating and spinning, showing its function. And that was like, dude, I have to do this. Like this is what I have to do. I ran like I was at my grandmother's house, and I ran to the kitchen, like grabbed some color pencils and sketched something completely ugly,
Nice.
It was that feeling of creating something and being inspired by that calling, I would say.
Sick. So was that like around the age of 5 and 6, and around that kind of age, like basically like a child, right?
Yeah, that's kind of what drove the whole idea of, I need to create something. And then that drove the pursuit of careers that would allow me to create something.
Got it. We're kindred spirits in that regard. I remember, again, just you telling your story, like nostalgia stories as well. Like, there was always something that I saw. And for me, so you were how old when Phantom Menace came out?
I was 6.
6. Okay, I think I was in about 13, maybe around that time. So early teen years. But even before I was younger, like the kind of things that made me just want to pick up and draw were things like Transformers, the original cartoon, and things that you said with the wireframe, anything that just triggered those synapses. There was not just only like to enjoy it, but it was okay, I need to make my version now. And it wasn't even a case of like, obviously looking back now, I think like, yeah, obviously there's a lot of lack of fundamentals and that kind of stuff. But at that point in time, it was just about, this is my idea, this is what I thought. And even Yeah, that was cool. So that's something that's been with you forever, basically, since a young age.
Yeah, pretty much. I do think that at a certain level, we are born with this urge to create.
Yes.
Um, I think that is what people would call talent. If talent
Mm-hmm.
exists, for me, is that drive, not necessarily the physical ability or
Yeah.
the how good you are at work. Because I don't think that you're actually good at work. You're just very driven to do something a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah. No, I fully agree. Like, I think like neuroscientists and that kind of field, like they can probably explain it better as to what is actually going on. Like, you look at an F1 engine versus like, a MotoGP engine, you can tell like what the differences are clearly. Obviously, to anybody else, that thing makes it go fast, so to speak. So I'm sure there's things in that regard, but I agree with you. Like, talent and stuff is, I guess, like how someone's brain or skill sets or all the things that contribute to what a human can do. Like, that's just how you're configured, and you're always going to end up in that kind of like realm, or anything that kind of like, I guess, feeds into that. You're always going to be drawn towards that, so to speak. So yeah, no, that makes sense. Because like, I know there's been like debates or just talks of like what talent is like. Because I guess like with art, and what's your take on it? Like, do you think with talent, is that something that, like, how does it help, and what is it? Is it just like a characteristic? Is it just something that's like a trait, or is it something that does help you become a better artist? And I guess another question to throw in there: can you be a great artist without talent? If that makes sense.
I think the way that I look at it, it's more like factory settings. Like you kind of
Sick.
come wired in a
Yes.
certain way. But okay, I'll make an analogy to bodybuilding because I like bodybuilding quite a bit. So there are some similarities there.
Okay, cool.
You cannot change your genes, and there are certain genes that allow you to build more muscle and to look a certain way, and they shape your body in a way that there are things that you cannot change no matter how hard you train. So like muscle insertions, the point at which the muscle is like attached to each bone or to each ligament, that sort of thing, you cannot change that at all. But for people that like this thing, that like to exercise and like to go to the gym and all that, if you cannot change that, why are you worried about it? Like, why does it matter? So the way that I see talent, it's pretty much the same way. You might have certain affinities, and like your factory settings might be more in tune to one particular thing, but at the same time, like if you feel this urge to create and to be an artist, and you feel like this is your calling in life, will you let something that you can't change at all affect that? It's anything that you can't change. I try to not think too much about it or too hard about it. Like, okay, is this guy talented, or is he like, did he just put a lot more work than I did? I don't care. I will look at his work for what it is and learn the lessons that I have to learn. And if it takes me more time to learn whatever he knows, then it just takes more time. And if it takes less time, then it takes less time. Like, there are certain things in life that I feel like I grasp more easily than other people, and there are things that are way harder for me than I feel like it is for other people. But we are not in their shoes as well. We don't know what they went through, and there is that idea of you only feel the pains of the life that you chose, so you don't know what is the price to be where they are at on that one particular skill, while you only know the price that you paid for your own life. And it does look like it's all roses in other people's lives, because you see like what he won on theirs, like, oh, this guy is extra rich. You don't see like the 4 divorces that he had, or like you see the guy that is in art, like that amazing artist at 15, but you don't see like that he has no friends and doesn't go out, or I'm not saying that it needs to be that way,
Sure.
but I think it's very selfish to try and think of things like, oh, I want to cherry pick everyone's lives and just get what's good from everyone and not have like any price to pay. And also it's very ungrateful to look at your own life as if it has no merit,
Yes. No, I think that's well put as well. And I think it's you've clearly done a lot of thought into, I guess, just yourself and like things that you can control, and obviously your own growth and your own journey as well. I think like it's even impossible to truly, even if you speak to people, know people inside out, truly know what someone's really gone through unless you're literally with them every step, every breath of the way. And what we see of people is literally like the portfolio equivalent. We just see that little snippet. We see the final piece. We might see some very curated images, but we don't see every single line, mark, length of time, all the pages that are landed upon the floor. And yeah, I guess like once you get to that realization, I know for me, it kind of gave me, I realized it pretty quickly, I'd say, but it did give me that sense of like, not just peace, but like, it helped me chill out a bit and just let me focus on just battle with myself as opposed to anything else. So with that said, did that affect you in any way? Like, did you have that within you from a very early age, or did you go for that journey of like trying to compare yourself to others, trying to match what your perception of success looked like to others as well?
I mean, I do think, despite the fact that it's very beautiful to say that, oh, you shouldn't care about what other people are doing, right? Like, it's very nice to say that. I do compare myself a lot in the sense that I want I don't want to, again, pay the prices that people paid, because I don't think that, I don't like to compare every aspect of their lives, like that's the point of understanding the thing about talent, or like what they did live or they didn't live in order to achieve the results they're achieving. But I do think it's very fair to compare the raw output, like, okay, this is the end look that you are aiming towards, and this is the end look that you have right now. Like the gap, I think that's pretty fair to compare, having a benchmark of what you want to achieve, people that you admire, and study their works and understand why what they do work, or even to a certain extent design the look of your portfolio. So when we think about design, especially in this industry, we apparently, as funny as it is, like we think about design on a very narrow way instead of thinking about design as everything. So people tend to think about design as only like the final look of that particular product or something. But also, in my mind, design is the whole construct of who you are as a persona online. So imagine that, as an example, okay, I try to do this because it's my goal, but I like to envision a working life where I will be allowed to sketch and also to produce like final products that look like more CG like. So that gap between the raw like pen drawing and the 3D final look, I need to have both in my portfolio, right? So designing my persona online is, at the end of the day, having the skill of sketching and the skill of making the 3D stuff. Now, if you look at some other artists, there's that like the painted look that I like a little bit, but I don't care enough to like want that for my own life, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So if you are the kind of artist, designing your persona online would be showcasing that kind of skill set, right? And when you are designing those things, just as when we are designing our own portfolio pieces, you gather references. You take notes on things that you need to implement or not implement. You look up to people that did the job that you want to do. Someone that I look very much up to, it's now that, of course, that I forgot his name now, right? But I do have his name here somewhere. George Hole. Okay. I have a tab with all of my influences, so I was able to look it up quickly. Yeah. But the guy is still making like marker drawings, marker sketches, and it's like 2025. If you ask anyone else, oh, that skill is dead, no one will like do that in the movie industry anymore, other than this one guy that is doing, right? So I think he very much designed his life to allow for him to have something that he enjoys, and there's no other way of doing things in my mind rather than like, okay, knowing what you want and then like going after it, And if what you want, if people are telling you that what you want is not feasible, I guess you'll have to prove them wrong or something, because like there's no other option. There isn't like a plan B or something.
That's true. No, first of all, a shout out to George Hull as well. Like, he's one of my all-time goats also, and ultimate like reference. Like it's just all you go. I'm always going to look at it, always going to compare it, and I'm always going to be a bazillion miles away. But that's totally fine. Like it's just good to have a beacon. That's like excellent. Obviously, you can throw Sid Mead in there as well, and obviously a few others. With that though, obviously you mentioned like with your, so you clearly had a very close relationship with the act of creating, designing, getting your ideas out. But it didn't kick in until 21. On that journey that you had, did you either through yourself or through others, were you trying to guide yourself away from that to maybe like do something that's maybe more quote unquote stable, or more achievable? Or was it a constant pursuit, but you just didn't know how to make it happen?
I mean, my parents, of course, were not that happy
Right.
with like, oh, I want to be an artist kind of deal. And it's fairly understandable. I do think that most people tend to be like, especially when we are teenagers, you know, like, oh, we just don't get it. But I don't think that we get our parents when we are teenagers.
That's true.
Because they are just avoiding risk.
Yes.
In a sense, like they don't want you to, first of all, fail on anything that you do. And it's not only about the money thing, you know, like they don't want you to be disappointed. They don't want you to feel sadness or feel lost or anything like that. But other than my parents, I don't think that anyone like was ever trying to dissuade me. There were some tough patches, especially like in my relationship, where so I've been with my now wife and then girlfriend for it will be like 13 years.
Cool.
Now, so she was with me throughout the journey of me like finding out what I wanted, and of course, like going out with a guy that has no money because he wants to draw isn't always fun.
Yeah.
And so like that was where I think I had most friction. But even then, it was always like, okay, I know that this will only take hard work. It doesn't matter. Like, and another thing is like, I tried to do marketing stuff during the first couple of years in college before I found out what concept art was, and it's also hard work. There's no hard work option. Like exactly. That doesn't exist. That's a myth, you know.
For a few, like, maybe.
I mean, if you want to be average, then maybe, you know, like if you want to live a life, especially I don't know how's the average life over there, you know, but here in Brazil is not that attractive. To like have an average pay and a average house and average family and everything. Like I feel like you owe it to yourself to try your best and to see your full potential. So to me, the average was never an option. I'd rather fail trying to do something great than settle for the average thing. And God knows I failed a lot, so at least I'm trying. But the thing is, when I saw that, okay, I'll have to work hard no matter what it is that I do, I'd rather like try hard on something that I really enjoy and I really like. And of course, that people are skeptical, and they should be. Like they should, because I think them being skeptical also makes you kind of show them that you really want it. I feel like a lot of, again, I'm saying teenagers, but it's usually people younger and in the beginning of their careers, they feel like their parents owe them to believe in them. But the way that I see it's mostly like when you start to prove to them that you are actually serious about this. So like you put your video games away, you put your like cartoons away and whatever, and they see you working hard as hell to achieve the goal that you want to achieve, or at least that you say that you want to achieve. It's the idea of like putting your money where your mouth is, you know? Like, okay, so you want this, right? Yeah, of course I'm skeptical. You say that you want this and you're on your couch on your phone like 7 hours a day. You don't actually want that. You just like the idea of it, you know? But as soon as I started, like, I quit every single game that I was playing at the time. I was working like, I don't know, 10 hours a day on my, like working on the sketchbook, you know? I didn't have a nice computer. I didn't have like a lot of resources. I was working on making my drawing better. And yeah, they never bothered me again in a bad way. Of course, they were concerned. They were asking questions and like how how much money are you making? Like, what's the deal? Like, are you getting jobs? Or that sort of thing is perfectly fine. They were worried. But as soon as you start to show to people that you are serious about it, they will take you seriously. At least most people will. So.
Oh no, that's so true. And it sounds like we had like, I can relate to that because I can probably honestly say until I got to uni, till I got into the industry, even just around this space, I don't think, even in the art class I had at school, like I'm talking about high school and stuff, like there's people that got together that wanted to draw, but I never met anybody that kind of either knew what I wanted to do, even if I explained it to them, or got it or understood it, because they didn't know like there's a pathway for it, like how to get into it. It's which was understandable. But yeah, no, with a lot of stuff that you said, like and I know for a lot of people that's the same kind of story as well. But I would say like it's also, and as you just explained there, like it's, don't take it as like a negative. It's just like just the way it is. Like, if just think like to some people it's obscure, but as you've proven, you just gotta would you say like, just dedicate yourself towards it.
Yeah, and if you bring them closer to you, explaining and sharing your successes and failures and that sort of thing, a lot of the time people just want to be a part of it as well. Like they want to understand what you're going through. And I know that there are parents that are not just as kind as mine were and understanding as mine were, but I also had like the huge privilege because my mom, she didn't get to make what she wanted to do with her life. Like she didn't get the profession that she wanted. So She was very much pushing for me and my brothers to do whatever we love to do. Yes. Instead of like, oh, you need to have a career. My dad was a little bit more conservative because he didn't got to choose as well. But he was like, okay, I didn't get to choose, so you don't as well.
Yeah.
But they were very understanding. But even if you don't have like parents that are so open to the idea, bringing them closer and showing them that this is a possibility, and like, because if you believe in something, there's probably reasons why you believe in that. And explaining those reasons to people around you might be easier than just confronting them every step of the way. And putting them on your side will be more helpful than like putting them against you on your dreams. So I try to go for the idea of like the more support that you have, maybe the easier it will be for you to achieve those goals. So
that's very wise and such a wholesome way to explain it. Like I never had these kind of things, but I know it can happen where you can just like almost like in a defensive way, like you become defiant or you become like, I guess like, I don't know, fiery or spicy and be like, no, this is how I'm going to be, etc., etc., etc. I think you said that a few moments ago, like, just let me live my life kind of thing. And it is like one of those where you just, people do recognize hustle, people do recognize hard work, they recognize when someone's onto something. And it's not even about like, some people's like, oh, that person's got a talent. So talent normally, I guess, implies like it comes easy to somebody. But maybe sometimes when someone's got like a flair or they're onto something, and you can, especially as a parent, like I can say for a fact, like you can tell, because a lot of times as a parent, you do like hypocritical stuff with your kids, make them do stuff that you'd never do yourself personally, never wanted to do personally, but you stand there like it's the only thing they should do. And obviously it's good for them. I hope it is good for them and it's healthy for them. But you can also tell when they do something, there's just something in them switches and it's just completely in their zone, what they want to do. And then sometimes you just gotta let them cook, you gotta let them flourish and let them, do that kind of stuff as well. And I think that happens in relationships and obviously with siblings or friends or whatever. Like you can see when someone's in a good place and in a good zone. Did you ever in your journey though, especially when they were like trying to get in, because obviously you mentioned that you put the games away. I did something similar as well, where you just like locked everything away and just, okay, like that, I don't know if you've seen Forrest Gump, when he just starts running and just keeps running and running and running. That kind of thing, like, okay, that's what I'm going to do now, I'm going to do this. Did you ever waver in yourself? Because it sounds like you definitely got that work ethic and you definitely knew that you could put the hours in. And I still stand by this 1,000,000%. To those people that are listening who are on that journey, maybe they're going through a dip, maybe they're trying to break in or what have you. It's one of those skills and things and vocations and even just like, I guess, passions in life where the more mileage you put in, you will always get more out of it. Like there's never going to be a bad energy that you can put in. But did you ever get to a point where you thought, what the hell am I doing? Like, this is ridiculous. I should change.
The what the hell am I doing part?
Yeah,
I
like just
I still do that.
yeah.
No, so like breaking it into parts, right?
Yeah.
The part of where I say, what the hell am I doing? I do that like to this day.
Okay.
The
So
part
that's never
of
gonna go away.
I should stop this and like I should give up. That never happened. That the part of self-doubt that is still very true, and I think that the whole imposter syndrome thing is still like very, very true, and I don't see a way out of that completely, because I do think that it's impossible for me to envision a world where I look around at what everyone does, or at least like if you log into ArtStation and you don't have an inkling of self-doubt. There are people out there that are so damn good that if I ever come to a point where I have zero self-doubt, like I don't know, I'll be like illuminated, I became Buddha or something.
Yeah, exactly.
But the part of giving up, that actually I don't think I ever had that, and I don't think because giving up means like, okay, I'll stop and I'll change paths or something, and the way that I look at that, it's simply, okay, now I have like another 10 years to go before I become a master at that one thing that I want to do. Because I will not give up this to become mediocre and average at something else that I hate. That's not the point. Like, that's really a no option. That will never happen in my entire life. And if from like 10 years from now, you see me posting something like I give up, you can message me and say like, stop with that, because you promised me that never happened. But I guess the point is, sometimes things change in the sense of like, okay, what success looks like. So if I tell you that, oh, the goal that I had the first day that I started drawing and the goal that I have now are the same, of course that changed,
Yes.
But I don't consider that like giving up. I think it's more course correction, because you have an idea, idealized vision of where you want to get, and as you approach that, the reality is a little bit different than your ideas. So you do have to steer towards what you love a little bit more and fine-tune things the same way that whenever I don't know why this analogy came to mind, but like whenever you're putting strings on a guitar or a bass, like it starts very loose, and as you get closer to fine-tuning it, like the increments in which you twist it become smaller, right? So that's kind of how I see it. At the beginning, you were just like jamming the strings in there and like twisting up until it gets tight, and then now you just need to actually find the right notes, and you have like a bunch of strings, so you have to find the notes for each one, and maybe like the strings that you have are the talenting. I don't know like where this analogy will go, but that's the overall idea. Like, no, you don't give up, but also you don't need to be hard-headed and go against like when reality hits your face. Like, okay, maybe you really like this final look, but you are clearly more inclined to do this process that gives the other final look of these pieces. So you choose between, okay, I want to like struggle to get the final look that I think it's nice, or do I want to go with what comes more naturally and like define my style a little bit more or whatever.
Sick. That tuning analogy is absolutely perfect way to describe it. No, absolutely true. Like the goals are like changing and shifting. That is so true. And many people I've spoken to, it's always the case, not even just in the creative field, like just people in life in general and different fields and what have you. Like the trajectory and just still going at light speed is the same, but you just change course a little bit, but you're still going full headed as well. Now that's amazing. That's a great way to explain it. So what did it look like when you put the games away and you decided that, okay, I'm going to go full on with this? What kind of stuff were you doing? What did your 10-hour day look like?
Okay, so I had basically like a bunch of sheets of A3 paper, and I was drawing ellipses on them up until my arm got numb. Wow. Then I would do some more imaginative drawings. I had one resource, which was the How to Draw book from Scott Robertson. and that's
Yes.
what I did. And I copied every single drawing, and I watched every single video multiple times. I think I actually copied the whole book like 3 times over, because it was
Nice.
the one thing that I had. And at first, I didn't quite understand what I was doing, but after, I don't know, about 6 months to a year, that's when I started getting the first gigs. So it told me that, okay, I'm kind of going in the right direction.
Mm.
I do think that I was still like very inexperienced, and perhaps more education would be good,
Mm-hmm.
but that's what I had at the moment. And after you start getting more like into the professional realm, where people are actually giving you demands, like designing briefs and that sort of thing, I think it becomes much easier, because then you don't have to decide what you want to draw. Like
Yes.
the hard part of, what should I draw next? Like, that's completely out, like, what you need to draw next. Now you just need to visualize it in a cool way.
Yes.
So the first maybe year and a half, that was probably me just drawing as much as I could, and like trying to get the best PC that my house would allow to draw. And those like my first tablet was a like small Wacom,
Right.
that was like getting my hand cramped and that sort of thing, because it was so small to draw on, and also like a notebook and that sort of thing. But I look at it in a way that, of course, that probably at the time it wasn't all roses, but I am looking with a like rose tinted glasses, in the best, and those were the days, like I just had to worry about like drawing as much as I could.
Yes.
And any small gig that would pay literally anything, like any amount of money, I'll take it, I'll do it, because I need experience. And I even did like, not that I'm approving of this, but I did a bunch of stuff for free. I did a bunch of stuff for like charities, and even like stuff that is not quite what you want, like logo design and like more graphical design stuff. It was all work in my mind, and I just need to get it done. Even people tend to give like a bad look to graphic design, especially when we talk about entertainment design, because it's usually like where people that can't quite make it fall into.
Yeah.
But graphic design is actually hard as hell, and like if you want to be good at it, it's good luck, because you don't have any like nice renderings to disguise your bad design,
Yes. Now, shout out to graphic design. Like, I think if you don't start off in graphic design, it goes full circle, and you end up realizing that you tend to just veer into that kind of space, and vice versa. If you start off in graphic design, you tend to, I can apply this to other things as well. No, I mean, like, not to get too pseudo with this, but graphic design is like just the simplest, most pointed, concentrated way to communicate something. Even like through history, like it was just whatever you needed to either for survival or to communicate or to point in the right direction. Up until today, it's still the same thing. Like any logo, any branding, anything that what have you, like it has to be just well designed. Not in a sense of like just through technique, but just to make impact. And yeah, that revolves around that as well. So no, I like that analogy with graphic design as well. Like it's just over here as well, like people who tend to have a, like a stylus and a computer and they do stuff. It's just called graphic design. And that's what people refer it to. They don't understand like there's all these different things as well. No, but yeah, shout out to graphic design in that space. So what kind of like materials and stuff did you use initially?
Just ballpoint and paper, and like a couple of Copic markers.
Yeah.
I actually we do tend to get very nerdy about materials, right?
Yes.
So I ended up getting the lip set, the very same lip set that Scott uses in his book.
Yes.
I had it shipped to Brazil. Like I paid a ton on it. That there are actually Brazilian brands that make like super high quality stuff.
Yeah.
But I didn't care. I wanted the same one, because that would be like that would mean that I would be able to draw like he did, right?
Yes.
Of course. But then after I found the one pen that I like, I just like bought like, I don't know, 12 or 20 of those, and I still haven't run out. So
which pen is it?
It's actually okay, let me grab it. I think, oh, it's on my pen case here. It's a pilot. So it's on a different body, but basically it's a local one here. It's called Pilot
Yes.
Super Grip.
Yep.
And I just put a 0.5 refill in it. And that's what I like to use because I tend to draw very small. Like my biggest sketchbook's A5 size, so kind of like this size. And I don't like to press too hard on the pen. I have like a very light touch, so I like pens that allow me to play with that a little bit more. As if you had like opacity turned on.
Yeah.
But yeah, like the physical drawing actually helped it a lot. I feel like people. It's still my advice. If you want to learn perspective, I do think that you should spend like, okay, do this 1 hour drawing and like make sure that you trace every line and trace the mirrors and everything. Like do that one time, and I do believe that you grasp perspective a lot more because the whole construction idea that actually helps a ton. And countless times I've seen like junior artists already like with jobs in studios making errors that would be prevented if they were just drawing actually on paper and learning the whole like fundamental before. So
oh no, sure. I mean and just to flash forward to your current workflow, what tools do you use now?
Blender and Photoshop, right? Isn't that the hype now?
That's it. Yeah. I mean, like, because obviously, sorry, go ahead, please.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say, like, even like just using pen and pencil and paper, just analog, basically. Even not just like understanding, like, how to construct and understand perspective, but just even through understanding form as well. Like, as much as it's fun and convenient when you're in 3D, you can, pull shapes and mess with things and obviously look in all directions. There's something about being able to do that by hand and knowing if it works, like where there is, the tension of a curve or what have you. Like, if it works on paper, or you get an intuition, like, okay, this is going to look good, or this is going to feel good, or this is the right thing to do as well. And it makes you more deliberate when you do things in 3D, I found, versus, which I found myself doing in 3D as well. I just constantly move, experiment, and change, and you just waste time that way as well. So yeah, no, because it's like the industry now. And so yeah, do you still use pen and paper when you can?
Mostly for personal stuff. I like to sketch quite a bit. But yeah, I do think the knowledge that you gain from that is like, and also the fact that you can't go back, like you don't have any eraser, you don't have Control C. Like me being mindful of each stroke, it helps you make decisions. Because that's another thing, right? I found that on the day-to-day basis, like I'm not a particularly fast artist. I'm kind of like middle of the road in terms of speed. And where I feel like people gain the most amount of speed is on decision making. And I do feel like the only way for you to make sure that you are making the right decisions is kind of like, okay, make a lot of bad decisions. And if you can go back on those bad decisions and you need to live with them, and like, okay, this one stroke will stay on the paper forever, maybe I should think more about it and make sure that I'm doing it right and be more mindful of each proportion that I sketch, if each detail that I put in. And then when you translate that to 3D, even like nowadays, my initial sketches usually already come with some 3D on it, like proportions and that sort of thing. It's the first few times that I was doing that process, I was like iterating a shit ton in 3D. So the whole 3D process would take forever.
Yes.
Because I was like still battling the tool a little bit and also not being too decisive or not being too, how can I say it, is like too mindful of the part of the process that I was on. So I'll dive into details too fast or jump into things that were not important at the time. While if I'm sketching like just in 2D, those things will not come to mind because I knew exactly what I was doing. So understanding like where you are at and what the tool is giving you at that particular moment is also very important. And that's when it comes back to, okay, if I was doing this in 2D, like what would I do? and just apply that same principle to 3D. And I have a friend, like his name is Adrian. He's extremely good at this. He only thinks about at least from what I've seen, like it's as if in his head, every tool is one single tool. So he jumps from like VR to 3D to 2D in a super fast and like decisive way that I do. If you're feeling a little envy in my voice, that's probably true because he's so good at doing that. And in my head, I have a harder time because usually like I'm very step-by-step approach. So, this is one part of the step, this is another part of the step. Now I paint, now I do 3D, now whatever. And having the ability of thinking of everything as like your tool belt, and just picking whatever it's best for that particular use at each moment, I think that's a huge plus and something that I'm striving for at the moment. So
fair enough. So what is your preferred, or what do you think is the best kind of like workflow or setup that would suit you as a designer?
I think it's like sketch something, put that in 3D, make it work. And by making it work, I mean like now it's when you add functionality. So if there's a door that needs to open, just let me start by saying I do mostly vehicles. So this will apply to that particularly well, but the principles can apply to other things. But the functionality, I do think it's easier to think about in 3D, even with like blockout shapes and like primitives and that sort of stuff. Proportions are incredibly important. So I try to think of those things first, and then like the styling that goes on top, that's basically the icing on the cake, So you can style that however you want. And then that's when you suit it to the final look that you're aiming for. Like I mentioned in the beginning, I am very much into those like more CG-esque kind of look at the moment. Ash actually inspires me a lot, Ash Thorpe. So like his recent more cinematic kind of, you have a design, but you take cinematic shots of those designs.
Yes.
I think that's something that appeals a lot to me. So I am using a lot more 3D nowadays, but I do like the idea of going back and forth and like doing sketch overs and doing small little explanatory sketches of details and thinking a little bit in 2D before you apply to the 3D side. So it's a mix between both. But yeah, I never got into VR that much. I worked a ton on it, but I just don't like using the headset too much.
Is it the headset specifically, or just the how it feels?
It's the headset. I don't mind the tool. Like, the tools are all right, but
yeah.
I'm the kind of guy that tends to alt tab a lot, or like look at the other screen a little bit, or look around. And being locked in that world doesn't quite suit me. I like to get up, get water, refresh my head a little bit, and that doesn't allow for that too much. Also, like I do like to use the desk tablet instead of like the Cintiq one a lot more, because it feels better in my posture, and like standing with my hands up kind of hurts my shoulder a little bit. So it's a bunch of things that I want to be in a comfortable position that allows me to sit like for hours.
Yes.
And whatever gets in the way of doing that, I try to do away with.
Nah, fair enough. That's wise. Any other things get in your way that you've definitely got rid of?
I stopped watching YouTube videos while working.
Interesting. So, so do you normally like watch whilst you work, and is it just YouTube videos specifically, or anything that's like whilst you work?
So anything on the second screen needs to not call attention. It needs to be more static. So any movement that happens tends to get me distracted. Or if it's a topic that I really like, then I'll like catch myself stopping and looking at the other screen. I like music quite a bit. So that's something that, because no noise doesn't work. Like, I can't be in complete silence. But I think it's similar to everything else. Like you are designing like your life around the things that work for you,
Yes.
and designing your workspace is pretty much the same deal. Like you have goals, and then you find issues, and then you solve those issues, and by solving them you allow yourself to like achieve your goals a little bit faster. So I'm a huge fan of like those. I have a Razer, what's the name, Tartarus, the small like one-handed keyboard,
Mm-hmm.
because I found that okay, taking my pen hand and putting that on the keyboard was getting in the way. So how do I fix that? Other screen heavy movement wasn't working. How do I fix that? Basically anything that would allow me to optimize the moment of, okay, when I sit to work, no matter how much time I have to spend there, that time will be optimized. I'll for sure do that. So working late night because the housing is in silence, that's great. Or early mornings, that works great as well.
Yes.
Like turning your phone off, like putting it on another room, setting do not disturb or whatever you have on it. Recently I saw, I think Alex Formosi saying like, oh, he locks himself in his room, like closes all the windows, closes everything. Like I know it's not healthy for your eye, like to be in a super dark room. But sometimes when I need to really lock down and produce something very, very fast, I do that because it really does help a lot to have like this one super bright light in front of you, and it's the only thing that will call for your attention.
Mm-hmm.
So trying to optimize for the flow state, I guess it's what people would call.
Mm-hmm.
I think my desk and my desktop and like the apps that I use, everything is like aimed towards that, which is also like another thing that people tend to fall victim of is it's kind of like the counterpoint of optimizing too much. You optimize up to the point where the barrier of entrance is still low, if that makes sense. So like if I had to like get in my chair and then set up the chair and then set up the screens and like move a lot of things around, and it would take me 10 minutes to jump into workflow, I think that would be too much. So like literally the moment that I turn my computer on, like it's enough time for me to grab some coffee and get back, and it's already logged in. I just need to sit and draw. Lowering the barrier for entrance on whatever activity you plan to do the most, I think it's like also another goal that people should have. So I know like I'm saying like a bunch of things as if they were rules, but it's just what works for me. And that's the same principle of the sketchbook, like how much time does it take for you to pick your sketchbook and a pen, like if you decide to draw and you need to walk 10 miles and grab like an iPad and charge it, and grab the pen and charge it too, and like jump 10 hula hoops, you will not draw ever, if you're always with your sketchbook, as soon as you have that like that spark, it's right there. You just do it, and then you take advantage of like those small opportunities.
No, it's so true. Do you have any issues with procrastination? Or do all those things remedy that?
No, I'm perfect. I don't procrastinate at all. No, I do have. I think my issue is not really the procrastination. It's more like, it's not that I would not start doing the work. It's more that I don't want to finish it, because I always think that if I spend just a little bit more time, it will be like this much better.
Yeah.
So deadlines are usually my issue, which actually working professionally helps a ton, because those deadlines are given to you. I find that whenever I have a deadline, I tend to work more efficiently, faster, and the outcomes are usually better. And which kind of sucks, because then my professional work looks a lot better than my personal work.
Right.
Because the personal work is always like in the drawer, and I never take it out. Because, if I spend just another week on it, it will be that much better. But yeah, I think that's where I fall prey to the procrastination, more like procrastinating the end of something.
And what's your relationship like with deadline? Like, you just basically spoke my life story there. Like, when there's a deadline and it's not one that I've set, this is a different story. That everything gets annihilated. It's amazing. But when it's a deadline I've set, I know why I set it, which means I know I can push it and or pull it or whatever. But for me, it's knowing that I can adjust it. And like you said, like it's a case of, I can add more. I can do this. I just need to feel I'm happy with this before I chip it, so to speak. What is it like for you though?
So I have a couple of contradicting opinions on this, because I think it shifts according to your current situation, right? So if you, let's say that you are starting now and you need work as fast as you can, like I don't know, a year from now, 6 months from now, you can't pay the rent. Like next month, you cannot pay the rent. You need some work. Okay, cool. You need to set those deadlines, and you need to produce work, and you need to post as fast as you can. It will be the quality that comes out, and that's when you train for those professional deadlines. So like you practice being as efficient with the tools that you already know as possible. Take any shortcuts that you can. You will sacrifice certain things to take those shortcuts. So as an example, right? If you're using a kit bashing kit, you are not designing every single part of your design. So you're sacrificing the control over designing everything and getting the benefit of becoming much faster. That would be a trade-off that I would do in that case. If that's your situation, go as fast as you can. If you are in a comfortable position, I think that's when you slow down, you learn new things, you hone your skills. And the same analogy that I said, spend 1 hour drawing one perspective drawing, I do think there is a huge value in having one project that you push like up to your limits, and then you post that, and then like I don't know, 2 months from now, maybe your limits grew, and then you look back and that thing's ugly as hell. But at least you know that, okay, this is the best representation that I have for what my current skill set is. And then I do think that only happens if you are relatively comfortable. Because I don't think that you can produce your best work while being completely desperate for money or like for food or like whatever impacts your livelihood. And let's say that you want a portfolio that only have those kind of pieces. That's when I would advise people to like maybe get a day job, that sort of thing, where it would allow them to do what they feel like it's good for them. But if you're desperate for a job, you really have no choice, like you just need to produce work, and you need to show that you can produce work fast. So I don't know.
What's your relationship like with your personal work? Is personal work just purely like a training ground for you, or do you have a different thing going on with it versus the professional side, or is it all a big blur?
I think it's quite blurred. Because back in, I don't know, 2020, I think. No, 2018. I was 20, I think. But I'm getting confused. But I think it was 2018. Yeah. I had, the idea of making the portfolio project. So like, you have one project where you do characters, environments, and props and blah, blah, whatever. I was very much into the FZD Fengzhu kind of phase, which is great, by the way. People should watch him. But I was not nearly good enough to produce something good. So I spent 6 months doing a project that I didn't quite care about the theme or the style choices that I made. It was merely like replicating what I saw online. And that was, okay, this is kind of personal work because no one's paying me to do that, but it's very much aimed to get a job or to like get a particular position in a studio or something. And that was the last time that I did that, because I posted that project and then I asked for feedback online, and then I got some, it was honest but very hurtful feedback, if that makes sense. Like because I worked a lot on that one project and the pieces were not good, I do feel like I was a little bit in denial of admitting that it wasn't that good. And I had to delete all of the pieces, a week after I posted. And after that, I was like, okay, there will be no more distinction. Like I will not make a project that I'm not at least a little bit proud of.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think I still think that there are certain goals to each piece. So the sketching pieces, they are aimed towards like showing me that I can do sketches and all of that. The themes are usually just like whatever I like. Um, if I'm doing a workshop or something, like those things, of course, that I have a clear aim, a clear goal in mind. But nowadays, it's mostly like, okay, I'll do my personal work, whatever I like, and if people hire me to do that sort of thing, like that's great.
Mm-hmm.
If they don't, like that's great as well.
You mentioned proportion a few moments ago, and especially with vehicles, that is like the soul, I'd say, of the design of a vehicle. Like, and not just only like whether it looks cool or not, more so its identity, almost its function, or what have you. Like, that's what you play with if you want to get something successful, or just experiment, or just solve a design. Proportion for you, was that something that you knew quite quickly? Did you have a battle with it? Was it a big war? What's your relationship with being able to understand how
Definitely a
proportion
war,
works and how to use it?
Definitely a war. Yeah, and I don't think I left the battleground just yet. So
Same.
the thing about proportion is that I mean any subject in the design world, you can dive as deep as you want to. So there is that linear point where okay, from now on things are already looking good. So you will get jobs and you'll get offers and that sort of thing, and things will look quite nice. But fine tuning, like the last 20%, like that's really really hard. But it didn't quite come easy. Form came easily, like understanding form, understanding shapes, and that sort of thing. Balancing those forms and shapes into like good looking proportions, those were way harder. And I do think that requires a lot more mindfulness whenever you're doing something. So before, let's say, like whenever I was not paying attention to that, sketching something was just about like go do a little doodle here and whatever comes out comes out. And then when you start thinking about proportions a little bit more into it intensely, you are actually calculating things, right? Or looking at shapes and thinking about their relationships and what you want to convey with those and the feel that things give. And then it comes all back to like designing, right? Like what does this communicate? How do I make sure that my goal of communicating this one particular thing actually works? And how do I make every single visual aspect of this thing enhance that that information that I want to, like that emotion, that feel that I want to convey. So the proportions thing is, I mean, I play around joking like, okay, I'm still doing it. I think I'm still doing all the fundamentals. So there's that. But yeah, proportion are definitely like, I wish I started looking at that sooner. But I guess at the beginning I was just like so lost that I just didn't know what I didn't know. So.
Why vehicles? And would you say you specialize only in vehicles, or is it more like props, hard surface vehicles in particular? How would you describe your skill set?
Vehicles, because Star Wars, dude. It's okay. So the Naboo ships from Star Wars, they were freaking amazing. Also, pod racing. I mean, I didn't really have a choice, I do a lot of props as well, like a lot of weapons and that sort of thing. But I like vehicles a little bit more, just because you can expand on them a lot more. Like you doing the internal bits, doing like it's just a lot more. I don't want to say like design intense, because you can go quite deep in a gun. But it's just something that suits me a little bit more, and something that I like to research more about. I like to learn more on my personal time, a lot more than other subjects. But professionally, because I work at a studio, like you don't really get too much of a choice on what you do. So I got the chance of actually doing environments and characters and props and like whatever was needed. And that's actually quite good because it helps you hone those design skills, right?
Mm-hmm.
You start to see, like when Neo sees the Matrix, oh, everything is the Matrix. Well, that's kind of how design is. And that's why you see people that are like good at something and like they're good at designing one particular thing. They may be good at designing like other things as well. If they have that vision of, okay, it's all about proportions and shapes and like making design work. So I don't know if that answered the question, because it's kind of, I'm everywhere, but I like vehicles quite a bit. But yeah.
And I'm assuming that if you had to just choose to do one specific realm, it would be vehicles?
Oh man, you're making me choose, right? Like it's kind of like choosing
of course.
between your kids.
No, which
I
kid
think that,
do you want?
Yeah, I think the goal would be to kind of have vehicle-centered pieces. Okay, so Pablo Dominguez.
Yes.
His pieces. Well, those are extremely inspiring. Because it's like a vehicle, but it's in a setting. It has some storytelling to it. It has some. The storytelling is not just like how many scratches the ship has. Because I think that's too shallow for my taste. I like the because that's what Star Wars is at the end of the day. Like, oh, it's a story that happens to have like cool elements to it, and those cool elements, I want to design those, but I also want to design like the setting where everything takes place, because the vehicle only has its function because of the environment that it's applied to, like where it's aimed to work on. So not imagining that, it's kind of hard for me. I kind of need to create a setting in my head before making the vehicle. So if I can get to like make both, I think that's my end goal.
Sick. So you every time with vehicles, I guess other stuff as well, like you have to imagine the universe that it exists in first.
Yeah, that's even like it's not always great to do that, because it makes you a little bit. It's kind of like a slow start, and then when you ramp up, like you go fast, but there's a low start actually happens. Like even I posted recently a pseudo Formula One flying vehicle thing.
Yep.
I do have like sketches of the racetracks that those would race on, and like how that would actually work. Of course, that's a personal project, so it will only be released in 10 to 15 years. But the idea that the whole sport actually could work is a thing, and that allowed me to focus on this one particular design. So, and it's also super fun, like you research things. How, in what principles, like would this thing fly or not? Because one thing that no one ever asked me that, but I kept thinking while doing that, like it has no anti-grav system on the ship itself. So I was like, people will wonder how this damn thing flies.
Yes.
But that's like imbued into the track itself on that world. So it doesn't need that, because that would be like, oh, this is added weight that a racing vehicle doesn't need. So like they would never put that on the vehicle itself. So you need actual like little carts to take the vehicle to the track before the track kind of turns on, and that whole thing, like the whole designed universe, is not visually quite there yet, but it needed to exist in order to allow for this one design to exist.
I think that's an amazing project generally in general design terms, but specifically for something F1 inspired. I mean, that's literally what causes the final look or purpose of the racing cars that are made. It's all the regulations, all the track limits, all of that kind of stuff, budget, materials, what have you. It's not meant to look sexy. It's just what it needs to be. And that's purely, but as a result, it's one of the coolest things.
It
I
looks
think,
damn sexy, right?
as a main. So yeah. So no, that's a great way to approach it with stuff like that. And equally, like sometimes you can just think you probably, I guess, you need like a more of a simpler prompt. Like, oh, this is going to be, I don't know, everything's made out of diamonds. So let's just go ahead, and then you can go wild with that kind of stuff. Are there any things that you would like to explore though that you haven't yet? Either maybe just in the vehicle side of things or elsewhere.
I would like to do more environments actually, because I got to do a few of them professionally, but like very few opportunities, and I do like to do those quite a bit, and also like taking advantage, because I feel like just now I'm starting to get actually decent in 3D and fast enough to be able to make those, and I'm learning a lot. Every time that I do I watch a tutorial or a class or something, I tend to follow the class like pretty much one-to-one and never post anything, because then it looks just like the teacher's work, and I don't think that's helpful at all.
Yeah.
But like even on Learn Squared, I think I did the classes on my Chase course like, I don't know, 4 or 5 times, like painting those environments. And
yes,
it's super cool because those are the paintings that kind of inspired us, like whenever you're starting in concept art, you are not looking at the like one singular sketch of a damn robot that like no one sees in the game. You are looking at those like Last of Us concept art, environment stuff, those huge paintings, that sort of thing. And the idea of inspiring people with paintings is super attractive, right? Because you're like, oh, this is the painting that will inspire everyone that is working on this. Like those programmers will see that painting on the wall and they will, I don't know, program better. Or like they will dedicate themselves that much more because they are seeing that world through code or whatever. And it's, again, a very narcissistic idea, because I'm not sure if everyone does, but I do want to be the person that inspires other people, like that's what we do as concept artists. We inspire people to create this thing that takes 5 years to be made. They're dedicating huge portions of their lives to make this game, and then there are other people that are watching those for like replaying those games forever and having that impact on someone's life, and knowing that you took a little part in that impact. Like that's, I don't see how anyone can be less than proud of doing that.
Why do you want to inspire people? It's a very obviously vague and open question.
I do think, there's a lot of reasons, but I do think that the start of that was exactly because when I was 6 years old and my life was a little bit not great, that helped me to like that took myself out of my life and relieve some pain. And if I can do that to other people's lives, I think that's great. And there's also like there's this one idea on a lot of movies and a lot of IPs and games and that sort of thing, that if you can inspire people to try their best, no matter what their condition, like their current condition is, I think that you should do that, because there's no bigger shame in my eyes than like wasted potential. And there's so much potential in people, like to do great things and to achieve great things and to like be their best version on whatever it is that they do. So like I do jiu-jitsu with and there are a couple of kids that go and train there, and they like Dragon Ball, because Goku is freaking strong and he doesn't give up, and they don't want to give up in their own like the day-to-day fights. They're rolling around with someone, they will not give up because their hero doesn't give up. And if we can be the people that create those worlds that inspire people to do their best, like it's a huge honor and a privilege to be able to be a part of that industry. Even though it's not always a perfect industry and it does make mistakes and like it varies in terms of the quality of the output, and we can have our own personal judgments of like, oh, I like this game a little bit more than this one, or this movie a little bit more than this one, and maybe the messaging of one particular movie like isn't quite to your liking, but we cannot deny the impact that telling stories has on people.
And you mentioned obviously like certain inspirations that you had, but who, or maybe if this is artwork, obviously you mentioned George Hall is one of them. Who is that for you? Who is your Gokus?
Oh man, there are so many. Okay, so I do think that I actually made a file on PureF with all of my references, and I did something that I encourage people to do, which is write out what you like about that person's artwork, what you don't like, and then go a level deeper and research who were their influences as well. But a couple of that I can mention, like Doug Chang is also a huge inspiration. Of course, Sid Mead as well. Scott Robertson, of course, another inspiration. I think Mikkel Kuz as well is a huge inspiration. He's more like current version, right? Current times. I think because I started learning I think it was 2015, 2016. I do tend to get a lot of like current day references, and I'm not one of those artists that because I consider myself more of a designer than an artist. I didn't dive too deep into the like old masters and that sort of thing.
Yeah, same.
I just briefly touched through those, so I tend to look at like current people a lot more. Of course, Ash. I mean, I think the way that I see his artwork is more like the mentality in certain final looks rather than others. Like he's one of those artists that I don't like everything that he produces in terms of like visually, but the approach and the relentless push towards something is like very admirable. And that side of his things is like what I admire the most. There's this guy named Darren Bacon as well, concept artist. Like he worked on Halo and that sort of thing. Spart as well. Like there are so many that it's hard to narrow to a handful. But basically, if the guy does scenes with spaceships and some sci-fi stuff, I mean,
that's safe. Something I was thinking about, I was mulling over that recently. Obviously, and we mentioned it before, like inspirations and people who are just such a high level and you're just trying to attain that, but it seems impossible. That to me is an inspiring thing. I have those moments as well where it's like, okay, it's never going to happen. I'll never be as this good. And I remember that clearly, thinking I'm never, ever going to get to a level. But then I remember thinking, oh, that time when I thought I'm never going to get to that particular level, I've reached that. So then it kind of unlocks more things that you can achieve. But then when you mentioned there, like when you're asked to like, or even do the exercise where, okay, let me list or try to list a few that really inspire me. You realize the list just you keep adding more people. And then it shows you that there's space for everyone, so to speak. I know that's kind of like, like putting a simple equation on it. But if so many people can inspire you, and all those artists you mentioned have their own way of doing things, their own distinct identity as a creative as well. So that's super inspiring as well from my angle, because it shows that if you dedicate enough and be able to realize that, like you mentioned, like unrealized potential, if you realize that as close as possible, not to say that the goal is to join amongst them, but it just shows that there is a space. Like, it's not saturated, although it can look like that, like you said, when you look at Open Art Station and what have you. And I think the sad thing as well is that there's so much content and avenue to showcase your stuff, you can never see it all. So there's probably like classics and new Gokus that we would probably be like, that you're the ultimate number one, but we're never going to see them, which is a shame as well. But I guess it's also inspiring in its own way. Back to inspirations, which you mentioned Star Wars, you mentioned Phantom Menace. My own personal way as well, like that is something that I would say not even inspiration, like it triggered something in myself, especially creatively. Like it almost felt like weird brainwashing, so to speak. Like it kind of like did some weird thing and tapped something and go with that. But was Phantom Menace your first exposure to Star Wars?
Yeah, it was.
Oh, cool.
Because it was like at the very right moment, I think it was family friendly enough that like my parents would allow me to watch. And I was when I was a kid, I was like very afraid of everything. Like I couldn't watch The Lord of the Rings because I was afraid of the orcs,
Right.
So that didn't have like scary monsters or anything, you know, like
Yeah.
you had Jar Jar that was funny and everyone thinks it's stupid nowadays. But
Yeah.
again, it was a kid's movie, you know, and of course
Yes.
that again, it's my generation's Star Wars, so I do tend to look a little bit more like I don't see its flaws as the people that like watch the original ones when they
Yeah.
came out see. But that was my first exposure, and I do believe it's like the arc of like Anakin, you know, like you see him becoming like Darth Vader and that sort of stuff. I do think there's some great notes of like for you to in terms of storytelling, right? The messaging of someone who's very talented to fall prey to his pride and like his fear of loss and that sort of thing. I know this is like reaching a little bit and like putting too much meaning into a movie that wasn't maybe that great, you know. But I do think that the whole story it was very good for someone who, as a kid, like I would do very well in school, and I would do like I was pretty much like never needing to put some effort into anything. So identifying again, this will sound a little bit narcissistic, but I do think as a kid I was a little bit narcissistic, you know, because I was like, okay,
Right.
I'm smarter than everyone, which I wasn't, but that that came in later in life. But it was good to have that sort of messaging, you know, like oh, like beware of your thoughts and like where you put kind of like your faith and like listen to your masters and that sort of thing, to the people that are around you, to the other people, and like don't get too high on your heels.
Mm-hmm.
That sort of story was also like super good.
Like so similar to yourself, like I had to learn why there was flaws in that particular trilogy of Star Wars films, and obviously now with age and with distance, and obviously understanding a bit more about filmmaking and stories, and obviously other stories and films that are far superior in that regard. Like I get it. However, similar to yourself at that time, did you watch it in the theater or did you watch it at home?
The Phantom Menace I watched at home, and then the other ones at theater. Yeah.
I think that was my like first theater experience. I think they re-released New Hope, or maybe after. And I'm pretty sure that was my first theater experience of Star Wars. Everything before that was VHS. And understanding what ILM and Skywalker sound and the effort they put into the design, also into sound, that experience alone, like I'll never forget. Like you said, it was a kid's film. I was like 13, but practically still a kid at heart. I was still watching Dragon Ball Z at that time as well, and other things. And it was like, yeah, pure indulgence when I look back at it. And there's so many well-designed, iconic things that I think have still stood the test of time. I still remember the highlight of that movie being the particular pod race. Everything just onslaught of like just everything. Design, obviously the way it was edited. I know it was like basically when I look back at it now, it's just Formula One sound effects with a bunch of like aircraft engines and stuff like that as well. But the way it was choreographed, I thought it was, yeah, it is so impactful. What were the standout moments for you from that movie in particular?
I mean, pod racing is a close second, but the first one is actually as soon as they land in Naboo, the like chrome spaceship.
Yes.
You know, like there's a picture in my head, you know, like the chrome spaceship with the two Jedis like walking out of it.
Yeah,
you know? Like that's so iconic, like the desert and everything, and the ship's so damn beautiful. Like those things are super cool. Yeah, I think what I like to watch nowadays is like the making of those movies, like the making of the prequels, the making of the Lord of the Rings, that sort of thing. That's hugely inspiring because you do see how much effort people put into those.
Yes.
And the way that I like to think of things is like quality will stand the test of time, no matter what, you know. So if you have to aim for something, you aim for quality, because I understand, like, yeah, maybe the storytelling isn't great, you know, but visually there is no like denial that those movies were amazing, and people put a ton of effort into them, and they were like carefully crafting a visually beautiful movie. If you can't like stand the dialogue, just put that in mute. I don't know.
Yeah, no, true,
But
man. True. No, I mean, like, yeah, I
also,
agree. And there's like many films since then that I'll put into that category of like, I absolutely adore them, but I understand they're not great overall movies or films. But just purely on the visual aspect or the design aspect or the execution of that, they're just like, they are completely immune in my world, like of like any kind of criticism, because they just feed that particular thing that I need. What other, it could be games as well, it could be anything else, but what other kind of like movies or IPs that you hold to such a high esteem, either just in terms of that's great execution or even what it means to you?
I didn't had like that many games as a kid. I used to like play mostly on the computer, and because I
Right.
was splitting up my computer with my two brothers, like we didn't have that much time. I did play a lot of Need for Speed, um,
Same.
because that was like, super. The Underground
Yeah.
2 one, it's like
Yeah,
so
yeah.
great, because like being able to mod your car,
Yes.
it's like that's what I think people like nowadays as well. You know, like it's a personalized experience. It's like custom to you. So like you had your own car that like, yeah, you could optimize for being the best car, but you wanted the best looking car as well, and you would not put stickers on everything, even though it would add to like to the score of your car, because you
Yes.
didn't want to make it ugly. So
Yes. Oh, I hated that. Yeah.
the ability of doing those things. I did play a lot of League of Legends later in life. Some Warcraft, like basically the whole arc of, I don't know, 2010 to like 2014. That's like when I was playing a lot of games. I played a lot of Team Fortress 2 as well, which like Team Fortress was a great online experience when I was playing, and it also allowed me to think more like outside of the box, because up to that point I wanted to play like more realistic games, or the better the graphics, the better the game. But then you have
Yeah.
Team Fortress that is like a bit cartoony and
Yeah.
it's super fun, it's super engaging, and they also had, I don't know if you remember this or if you ever played Team Fortress, but they had those short movies on YouTube introducing the characters,
Right.
and that kind of brought a storytelling aspect to the game itself, because it would make the lines that the character said in game make more sense or less sense. It would give some backstory to them. So that's bridging the gap between game and like movies, right? Because nowadays we basically have movies that you play in between the cutscenes. Like, so you actually have a 60-hour movie that you
Yeah.
happen to play a couple of parts in between those cutscenes.
Yeah.
And I think merging those two is it creates a depth that I don't think that maybe movies can achieve. Because I was just talking about that with my wife today. Like, she's watching the Last of Us, what's it called, series now. Like,
Yeah.
I'm watching the season 1 with her because she didn't saw it the first time that it came out, and she's having a hard time grasping like why people care so much about the characters. Because I think on the TV show, because you have less time with them, it's harder to quite get the feelings that Joel has for Ellie and Ellie for
Good
Joel.
point. Yeah.
And one thing that we came to think of is that on the game, you actually have to perform the actions of that character. So you're not just watching someone else do those actions, you are actually doing those actions yourself. And of course, that there's the gamification, so you are getting rewarded in a artificial way for performing whatever you need to perform. But because of the fact that you are controlling the character and like doing the steps yourself, you do get a lot of a deeper connection. And then whenever something bad happens or something that is supposed to frighten you or make you happy, I think those emotions are a little bit higher because you do have more involvement. You're not just watching an actor play on screen. You are, and I don't know if this is like for the scientists to study, but I don't know how much your brain can discern from you doing it virtually through the character and you doing it yourself something. Because again, like maybe that's where people would study it, right? There's visualization, and if you watch like flight pilots or jet pilots before they take flight, they are usually doing their mental training, and they're actually moving their hands and feet and like looking and talking, whatever it is. Like they're practicing their head. So it is also a virtual action that they're taking, but that actually helps on the training. So I do have the belief that there are some truth to the fact that, okay, games are deeper because of the fact they are doing those things.
Mm-hmm. No, I totally agree. There is something special about interacting with creativity, like through a gaming sense. Obviously, there's just appreciating through like an art book, for example, a painting and a movie, and even music as well, and any other form that it can come in. But the interactivity with a game, and I can just think about so many gaming experiences where, especially the story-driven ones, even the ones that are not story-driven, like, yeah, like even though you're not the character, the investment you put in to either get into the end of the goal or even just finishing the story and what have you, like that reward system in your brain, it just taps right into that, where like a film, although some that are masterfully done, you're just along for the ride. And in a game, like you are the one that controls the ride, so to speak. Even though it's obviously curated and you can't break the game, so to speak. There's definitely something powerful with that for sure. And there's some films or shows that I feel like, even though I really enjoyed them, I thought that would be so much better as a game. For example, and my brain's got blank now. There's like so many that I realize that, but even as awesome, and I absolutely adore it. But like the Penguin TV show,
Yeah.
Oddly enough, as much as that's a dramatized thing, if that was a game, and you can live through Penguin's journey through that as well, that 10 hours that you're with them would be probably like 100 hours. That would make, probably in a horrible way, considering how that show goes. Like that journey with that character and the stuff that you have to do and how gritty that world is, like that's something that you want to spend more time in. But yeah, that's my thing. Obviously, I'm sure HBO don't have the time to spend 5-6 years and a couple of billion trying to develop a game. But maybe technology will change with that and stuff as well. Speaking of changes, and one of the last few questions before we head off, how have you changed as an artist and a designer, even your purpose as an artist and a designer? Because obviously I know like you're branching into sharing your knowledge now as well. How have you spent time like thinking of how you've evolved over time, or do you just go with the flow and only take stock whenever you need to?
I don't usually look back too much because it's so weird. I still feel like I'm the 20-year-old guy that was learning this, and I still feel like there's a huge path ahead. And I still look at my own artwork and say like, damn, I'm not that good. I'm not like, I'm not great. This sucks. But I think there's one phrase. I think it's Hermosi as well, right? Because although he's an entrepreneur and like he does more business focused content, I think he has great insights for artists in general. And I think artists in general should look more to other kinds of content other than just purely art stuff, because there's a lot of like parallels to other areas of life. But he says like, if you have no confidence, build evidence. And I'm trying to do that at the moment, because only recently I started thinking about it. But I think the whole idea of like how you changed and how you perceive yourself, I think the only way to change how you do that is like, at least for me, it's if I actually start to build hard evidence of certain things, So if I make a piece of artwork that if I look at someone else's portfolio and I thought it was great, and I see that in my own portfolio, maybe that will start to change things and how I see myself. Having, as you mentioned, like I just started in the world of education, right? There's also like a local school that will start teaching at in June, which it's aimed towards my goal of helping the local Brazilian community. Because there's a lot of people here that they either don't have access or they don't like speak English, so they can access like international content and that sort of thing. And like it's a very weird thing, because we are so aware of how bad we are, but we are never aware of like people that look up to us, and coming in contact with those people. It's a super strange feeling. As someone who's like new to it, I never look at myself as someone who could be admired.
Mm-hmm.
And having people doing that, it's super strange, man. Because if you are a little bit like I am, you are always doubting yourself. So the way that you see people, like when they compliment you, is almost as if you're doubting their like sense of judgment.
Yeah.
Nah, dude,
Yes.
you have no idea what you're talking about. You haven't seen people that are good, you know. So like it's almost as if you're telling them, you only think that I am half decent because you know nothing. And balance that out with a like looking at other people's judgment and trying to discern what's fair and what's not fair. I think it's a very good practice, because then it keeps you grounded in a sense, because then you don't fall too much towards the side of oh, I'm freaking great, I'm awesome, or whatever, and you don't also fall to the other side of, oh, I'm a useless piece of shit and like I'll never produce anything that is worthwhile.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's all, like that's also not good, you know. It's good to be humble, but it's not good to like hate yourself. So
Last question before we head off. You mentioned earlier you do bodybuilding. What parallels have you noticed, and maybe even crossovers, have you seen doing that and being a creative?
there's this one idea that I think we can adapt to the art world a little bit that I haven't seen spread out yet, and I do want to make it like spread, because I don't think that I came up with it, but I do think that I brought it to the art world because I never seen anyone talk about it. But both bodybuilding and art, first of all, they worry a lot about proportions. To me, bodybuilding is actually like a art contest. Is the only difference that you are actually sculpting your own body,
Mhm.
and you do have certain proportions that you aim at. And one thing that people like in this world kind of realize is that you desexualize the body a lot, you know, because you are not actually looking at someone's body. You are looking at like muscles and proportions and shapes and how full they are, how dry they are, that sort of thing. I don't take part in like the steroid usage, like I'm a natural bodybuilder. So if you look at me in the street, like I'll never look at someone who even works out. But the idea of kind of studying the right proportions is something that we can apply a lot in the art industry. But the biggest change I think that I realize is that whenever you are on the gym and you are like, you have, let's say, a set of 15 reps to make or 10 reps or whatever, there is a certain degree of quality that those reps need to have in order for them to count. So you can't just throw the weights around, because that will not make anything for your growth. And I don't think that we apply that enough to the art industry, in a sense that we tell people that mileage is enough. Like, oh, you just need to practice, you just need mileage. But what we don't mention is that it's not just mileage. Like, you can spend 3 years drawing cubes in your sketchbook and not get any better because you're not being mindful. So it's as if those reps didn't count. You know, you're throwing ink around in the sense, the same way that you throw weights around. But if you are mindful of each rep and make each rep count, that's when you actually get the gains. You know, that's when it actually makes a difference, because you are exercising both like your muscle memory and your brain to make I know the brain's not a muscle, but that muscle grow, you know, like the art muscle inside of you, for that to grow. And I think teachers and schools and like, we need to make the idea of your reps need to count a little bit more well known, because I think it's very frustrating for people to, oh, I think I'm practicing, but then you look at their practice and they're kind of repeating their same mistakes over and over again. They're just mindlessly doing stuff. And I think it's a recipe for disaster, because then they will not achieve their goals, and they'll not like know why, or they might be either blaming themselves or the wrong people. And it's just that they didn't actually make anything, you know. It's as if they were running circles for a long time, and you can run in circles and get tired, but you'll never get anywhere. So I think that's a parallel that you can trace.
Sick. Andre, it's been amazing. We have to wrap up now. Any final words or thoughts from yourself before we head off?
Well, if anyone actually listened to me talk this long without getting like sleeping or something, thank you. I know I talk a lot, and thank you, Aaron, and the whole like Learn Square people. It's been amazing to follow you, because I started, I think, in the year that I started, I think Learn Square was formed, because they started launching the same course. So it's been great to watch you guys grow and how much you help the art community with like very accessible courses. And yeah, I've been like doing many of those. So yeah, thank you so much for having me, and it's been an honor to be here.
Awesome, man. Thanks so much. Massive thanks to Andre for that incredible conversation. Hit the links to see what he's up to and to give him a follow. Then head to learnsquare.com and take some of the same courses as Andre has done himself. Every first lesson is free, and with over 60 courses to pick from, you can find the right knowledge for you. I've been your host, Aaron Danda. Till next time.